Hello everyone and welcome to episode 11 of our Raspberry Pi series, and in today's episode we are going to be looking at how to install Syncthing on your Raspberry Pi. Now Syncthing is great for syncing files between different devices. If you have, let's say, some books that you want to share across maybe your mobile phone, your laptop as well as your tablet, say you wanted to sync the same file across 3 different devices, then with Syncthing you can do this. Okay, so let's have a look at Syncthing, and this is the project here. It's open source and it's in open development as well. The good thing about open source is that the source code's all there that you can, if a developer or someone who wants to adapt it or sort of add to the source code, they can. You can go through all the source code and see, exactly what it's doing on your computer. Now, a lot of proprietary software doesn't do this, and there is an alternative proprietary software which is called Rezillo Sync. It used to be called BT Torrent Sync, but they obviously updated it and changed their name. But it used to do exactly the same thing. And back in the day, before Syncthing was actually available, I used to use that protocol and I used to use that software on pretty much all my devices. Syncthing came along and straight away it ticks all the boxes for me with software because I'm an advocate for open source. I like stuff that's primarily that uses encryption, things like that. So all these tick boxes, the fact that it's free as well, as in free to use, it's fantastic. So this is great software. It's got clients for the Mac OS, it's got clients for Windows, Linux, Android, as well as Apple. So you can literally have it on any devices that you've got. It literally covers everything, even FreeBSD. They've even got a FreeBSD client of Syncthing. So it's very, it's a good bit of software. I've used it for maybe the last 5 or 6 years, so I recommend it. As a file syncing solution. The only other thing I could think was similar to this is like Dropbox, maybe. If you use it along with your Raspberry Pi, if you have a dedicated folder on there, which we're going to do in our tutorial, we'll have a dedicated folder in there to store all our files. So you can even use this for backing up your phones. So you can have a one-way sync and you can disable it so that it doesn't, if you delete it off your phone, it's not going to delete it off the server. But the thing with this software though is it's not really designed for backups. It's a sync software. So it wants to keep all your devices in sync with what you've got, but there is some ways of manipulating it to only delete on the device that you're using. So like, as I said, if you had a phone that's full of images, videos and photos and you wanted to get them off there, but you want to keep it up on the Raspberry Pi as server, there is a few tweaks that we can do, which we'll show you after the end of this tutorial, how you can stop them from being deleted. So I'm going to show you setting this up on the Raspberry Pi. I'm going to switch over to one of my devices a little bit after this and show you how to set it up on your device. It'll be an Android based device, and I'll show you how to back up your photos and videos from there, and we'll take it from there. So I look forward to this one. It's going to be fun. So let's crack on. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up a SSH PuTTY window, and we'll make this a little bit bigger. As I said, I'm using Linux at the moment to make sure that I can see what text and font I'm using. So we're going to connect to the SSH on my Raspberry Pi, which is using this. The TAC-P is for the port number. I've used my username and then my Pi's IP address, as well as SSH protocol. So you use that. So I'm going to put in my password. Okay, so we're in. I'm just going to clear that out. So what we're going to do when we're in here is we're going to create a folder for the container data for Syncthing. So we're going to do that first. We're also going to need a download folder or a sync folder so that we can store all our data files in there. What we're going to do now is we're going to create this sync folder. So we're going to go into our SRV folder where we store all our containers, and it's on our, if I remember rightly, dev, and then it's 6. So this is my blue drive that I've had in previous episodes, which I've discussed in length. I'm going to widen this a little bit more so we can see exactly the command I'm running. So we are going to go into our, if you have a look now, ls out, we have our app data folder. We're going to go into our app data folder. And then we're going to ls again to list out what's in there. Okay, so there's our previous containers. I'm going to go make directory Syncthing. And if we ls that out again, you'll see that we have our Syncthing folder. And we're just going to check the permissions by doing ls tac la. And this should show you the permissions. And we can see the ownership is user1 and it's under the users. So that's exactly what we want to see there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our browser and we're going to navigate to Docker Hub. And there it is. And then we're going to search in here for Syncthing. And the one we want is from linuxserver.io. It's this one here. Now we can check on here that this is compatible with a Raspberry Pi by coming down to this architecture and seeing it says ARM, and it's for the 32-bit processor, so that will work perfectly with our Raspberry Pi. So it's got a nice little Docker Compose file here. So what we're going to need, as you can see from here, we're going to need a config file, which is in our app data folder. So in fact, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into our next, so that basically the file that we've just created under Syncthing, I'm going to go into there now, and I'm going to create a directory in here. In fact, I'm going to create two directories in here. I'm going to create one for the config file. So we're going to call it config, and then just make sure that's done right. Yep. And then we're going to make another folder for their files, and we're just going to call it sync. Okay, so we've got a config file in there and a sync file. So we're going to put the config file in here. So we go cd config, and then we want to do print working directory. So we've got that there ready. So we're going to come back into our Docker Compose file, and we're going to copy this and put this into memory. We are then going to open up our Portainer, which is under port 9000, and then we're going to log in. We're going to click on local, and then we're going to click on stacks, and then add stack. And now we're going to call this Syncthing. We're going to paste the Docker Compose file in here, and we're going to change a few fields. So coming down the line, we're just going to follow it from the top downwards. So this is the image that we're going to be using, which is the linux.io image, linuxserver.io image. You can leave the container name there, even though we've named it here. It makes no difference. We're going to call it hostname Syncthing. It's absolutely fine, so we know what it is. Now we need to change these PUIDs and PGIDs. I've showed in previous episode how to find them. So mine is 1001 and 100. Now this path to app config file, okay, we're going to go back into here, and we're going to grab that folder that we print working directory before, which is our syncthing/config file folder. And we're going to go back into Portainer. So we're going to replace that there with our file location. So as I said, anything before the colon here is outside of the container. So that's in our Raspberry Pi file directory. And anything the right side of this colon is within the container that we're going to create. So it's going to be within the Syncthing container. So we don't need two data paths. We're just going to have the one data path. So we're going to come back into here, and we're going to grab our, we're going to cd up from here, and we're going to go into our sync folder, and then we're going to print working directory again to give us the absolute path. And then we're going to copy and paste this and put this in before the colon for our data1 folder right here, like so. So all of that's correct. Now, looking at these port numbers, I don't currently use these ports on any other of my containers, so they're safe to keep them the way they are. So all that leaves us to do right now is to deploy the stacks. That's what we're going to do. It may take a little while to download the container image, and all it's going to be doing in the background now is creating the container, and it's going to be linking our files and folders to the locations we've set. So now that's finished, we're going to head to containers, and if we go down the line, you see there's Syncthing there now. So we're going to look at the logs, and we can see that it seems to be running fine. So Syncthing is running on port 8384. So we're going to come in here and say 192.168. And then we want to put in 838. Sorry, what is it? 8384. And there you go. So what we need to do is, if you want to send data back to Syncthing to help support the project, then by all means do it. I'm just going to click no on that because I like to keep things a bit more private, so that's fine. The Syncthing admin interface is configured to allow remote access without a password. This can easily give hackers access to read and change any of your files on your computer. Please set a GUI, which is a graphic user interface, authentication user and password. So what this means is that anyone who gets onto our network, it's not from the outside, but if they were within my network and they connected to the same router or router that we are using, they will be able to put in this address and have access to all your files. So all it's basically asking you to do is if you can set an admin password. So that's what we're going to do now. I'm going to click on settings, and then we're going to come across here to GUI, and then we're going to add a right here. We're going to, where it says GUI authenticated user. We're just going to put in here whatever username you want to use. So I'm going to use addicted to tech, and my password, I'm going to put a password in. Okay, and then we're going to put save. Also, just before I click save, I like to change. I'm a big, massive fan of dark themes. I've always loved dark themes, so I'm going to change the theme to dark as well at the same time. And I'm going to click save. So it's going to reload it. And then we're going to go back here. And now it's going to ask us for the password we've just set. So I'm going to put that in now. Addicted to tech. Okie doke. So here we go. So we are now in the Syncthing interface. We have now changed the password so it's secure. So we can now start sharing files. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add a couple of files to our sync folder, just to do a bit of testing really. So we're in our sync folder now. I'm going to go touch. That will create a file, and we're going to call it test1.txt. And then we'll go test2.txt. And then we're going to make directory test folder cd. I think that's created two folders called test, and then we're going to go put a file in there as well. So this is what we've got. So we're just basically creating a couple of folders, a couple of files and folders to sync, so you can see them all in there. Okay, and let's LA them out. So this is a couple of text files. We've got two folders here, and then one of the folders here, we've put a text file in there, okay, named test2.txt. Okay, so what we've got to do now is, at the moment, our sync folder has gone to config/sync. So we don't want our sync folder to be within our config file. We want it to be outside of it. It's just preference. You can have it in there if you want it in there, but I'd prefer to move it somewhere where I know that it's out of, it's not mixing up the file structure. So I'll just show you what I mean. If you come in here, and if we clear this out, so okay, so we're as you can see here, we're in app data Syncthing config. Okay, and if you press ls, you can see that we have our sync folder. Now we don't want to sync files there. Okay, we want to go sync files one up. Don't mind it being in the same folder as long as the config's completely separate. So I want to use this folder. Okay, so what we're going to do is we'll remove this unshared folder, edit, and then we're going to remove. Yes. Okay, so we're going to add our sync folder now. We're going to go to here, and we're going to call it sync. Now folder path, we're going to remove and let's just find it here. I think it's data1 on that side. Because data1 folder is inside the container, like we showed before, okay, that's where Syncthing is going to be now. So if I click save, I'll show you what it means. And then we click on here, you'll see that we now have our files and directories. Because if we go back to stacks here, and we go back to Syncthing, and we go edit, okay, you've got to realize that this is out. So this side here is outside of the container, okay, and this is inside the container. So all we got to do within the container to make sure that that sync file syncs up with this file is that's inside the container. So we need to use /data1, and that's where our sync folder is going to be. Okay, do you understand? Bit annoying, but that's what we have to do. So if you go back, you can see that we've got our data1 folder. Okay, it's called sync, so we know that it's synced. And we've got our folders that the 3 files that we've created and the 2 directories. Okay, and what we're going to do now is we're going to go into actions, we're going to go into settings. So to prevent you from having to change the file path each time in each folder like we've just done, what we can do is set the default folder path to the correct app data folder or the data folder. So this will just prevent basically having to manually change any folder structures. So if you come into the default path here, we're just going to add our data1 folder to that. So what that's basically saying is it's telling that any folders that are added now will automatically be added to our data 1 folder, which is our sync folder on the other side. So it's very important that you change this now so that any future folders that are added to the pool will be added to the correct location and you won't have to manually edit nothing, so it'll all just go through perfectly for you. So once you've done that, you just click save and then you're done. So now what we're going to do is we're going to add Syncthing to one of our mobile devices. We're going to record it on there and I'll add that to the footage, and then you'll see how to use the Android app and how we can sync the files between 2 different devices. So I'll see you over on my Android phone. Okay, so what we've got to do now is we are going to go to the Play Store and we're going to search for our Syncthing. So this will get us the Android app. There it is, and we're going to click install. Just going to wait for that to download and then we'll click open. Okay, so we're going to click continue, and then we're going to grant permissions for the storage permissions so we can actually save files. And we're going to click allow, and then we're going to click continue. It's in the bottom right hand corner. We're not going to bother with local permissions, so we're just going to click finish and just let it generate the secure key. So this is for the encryption. So we're going to click the menu and we're going to go down to Web GUI. I prefer to use this interface because I know it and it's quite familiar because it looks a lot like the one that we see on our server, so on our Raspberry Pi. So we'll keep that the same. There you go, so that's loaded up. So it's came up with the same message, so we don't want to allow anonymous usage, so we're just going to say no. And here is our folder that's automatically created. It's our DCIM folder. So, but currently that's not where I store my photos, so we're going to probably remove this. Get rid of that now because we're not going to need it. We're going to click add folder and we're going to find the location of where our photos are stored, and we're going to add that. So we want to pick our SD card, and then we're going to click on DCIM. So it's DCIM. There you are. That is where we store all our photos. And then we're just going to edit the name and we're going to call it camera, so we can identify what that folder is. And then when we finish, we're going to click save. Using the default folder location, we'll store any files that are synced with our server. It will store it in our internal memory. So that's where we want it for. Or you can move this to the SD card if you wish, but I'm quite happy I've got enough storage on this device. So we're going to leave the default path the way it is. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to click on Actions, and we're going to show ID. Okay, so this now shows our device identification number, and this is for our tablet. So this device ID is unique to every device that you're going to use. So we're going to use this ID here to add it to our Server 5 Syncthing pool. Okay, so we're back on a Raspberry Pi now, and we're in our Syncthing interface. What we're going to do from here is we've now added our app to our Android device, and it's given us a QR code as well as a device ID number, and we're going to add that now to our pool. So you do that through the Syncthing interface on our Raspberry Pi, so it's in our container. We're going to come to the remote devices section here, and we're going to click on add remote device, and this gives a list of all nearby devices that have Syncthing installed, which is very helpful if it's on the same network. These other devices I have here are actually from my other devices in my house, so you're not going to be able to see them, they're going to be blurred out, but this top one is what we're looking at. So this is our newest device, so this is our tablet. We're going to click on that and we're going to call it tablet. So it's good to to name the device something that you can keep track of, because if you've got several devices, you need to make sure that you're adding and deleting from the right place. So it's good to have a descriptive name there. We're going to click on sharing, and we're going to call this auto accept. Now what this does is if I choose to share any other folders, let's say I had a second folder with some PDF files in there or some downloads, and I wanted them to go straight up to the server. What I would do is I'd add them on my tablet, I'd add them to the pool. So I'd say that I want this folder, let's say it's a downloads folder, to sync with the server. So I'd add that in the Syncthing interface on my tablet. And if you have auto accept on the server, it will automatically accept that file. I won't have to come into the server, go yes, that's okay, link that file, and then sync up. It will do it all for me. So that saves a bit of time. So I'm going to sync the sync folder. So as I said, we've got a couple of folders in there and a couple of files. I want them down on my tablet, so I'm going to be syncing that file, syncing that folder. So advanced, we don't need to mess with anything in here unless you choose to. And then we're just going to click save. So what you can see now is it's added our device, which says tablet. So now that we have added our Android device to our Raspberry Pi, we now need to add our Raspberry Pi to our Android device. So it's going to come up with a new device notification. We're going to click add device, and then we're going to click on device name here, and we're going to rename this to something that we understand, like server 5, because that is my Raspberry Pi's host name. So that's something that I can recognize if I'm looking at a pool of different devices. So call this something that you want that's descriptive. So now that you've added that, in remote devices, you will see your Raspberry Pi server. Because we opted to share the sync folder with the Android device, it will ask us to add a new folder. So we're going to do that. And inside the folder path here, we can change the location if we wish. So we're just going to let this sync now. It takes a little while to completely fully sync. So it depends on the size of the folder. In our example, the size is very small, but it'll still take a little while for it to fully sync up. But while we're here, we're going to click on the camera folder, and I want to share this folder with the server. So I'm now going to add this camera folder to the server 5. I'm going to do this through the sharing tab. I'm going to come down and I'm going to tick the camera box on unshared folders, and I'm going to click save. Now that will automatically be added up to our server. So we're going to go across there and see that file be added there. And as you can see there, it's now automatically added, and it says up to date now. So any photos that we take will automatically be uploaded. So as soon as you take the photo on your device, it will upload it to the server. So you've got an instant backup of all your photos. Now, on a device, on a mobile device, obviously your space will become, filled up. Now, currently this is a sync. So if you sync anything with the device to the server, so basically if you delete a file off of your tablet, it will delete it off the server too. So we don't want that to happen. So I'm going to go back to the Android device and I'll show you how to stop that from happening. So we're going to click actions and go down to advanced settings. And from the advanced settings, we are going to scroll down till we see the camera folder. So we're under ignore deleted, we're going to tick the box, and then we're going to scroll to the bottom and click save. So if we delete any photos or videos from our device, they will no longer be removed from the server, which is exactly what we want, effectively creating a backup. So we're just going to have a look now in our file explorer to make sure that that sync file has come down from the server, and you can see there's a sync folder, and as you can see, all the test folders that we set up earlier are now in there. So as you can see, Syncthing is a very powerful solution to have in your toolkit for syncing your files amongst your devices. I've installed it on Android and I've installed it on our Raspberry Pi today. I will cover installing it on Windows. It's pretty simple really. You've just got to download the executable client from the website. If you go to Syncthing here. So if you go to syncthing.net and you scroll down the page, if you go up the page and click downloads and then scroll down, there is a client for Windows here. So Windows is 64-bit. 32-bit is sort of more the older versions of Windows, sort of Windows 7 maybe, you might be using it, but most people primarily use 64-bit nowadays. You would download the executable file and you would install it just like you would install any other application, and you basically add it like you did with the Android device. So there's not much really to show there, so I'm just going to leave that for you guys to do. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments below, or you can put them on our blog on our website. If you got benefit from our episode today, we would be grateful if you can give us a like, and a subscription will be even better, so hit that subscribe button. We have a notification bell there. If you click that, that will notify you anytime we upload any new content. We use affiliate links in the description below as well as on our website. If you guys are interested in anything Pi related, we have literally gone out of our way to look for products that are compatible with each other and also compatible with our Raspberry Pi series. We've managed to get a list of different devices from Amazon, and if you use them links, we get a small bit of commission, and we thank you if you use them. So thank you very much. So this really leaves me all to say is thank you very much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one.